Now, this is going to be a pretty quick video. This is a question I've been asked a lot, and that is, what does cooking mean in music production? Super simple, short answer. All cooking means is to be creating something. That's really it. You're kind of in that brainstorming process, the way I like to look at it, in terms of, messing around with different beats, samples, different loops, different melodies, seeing what works, what doesn't, and sometimes just messing around and seeing what can come out of it. This originated from hip-hop music, and there's a few different ways people use it, especially now. I feel like the term cooking or cook up or cook kind of mean all the same thing. I've noticed it's gotten a lot more popular, especially I think because music production has gotten a lot more popular over the years. Back in the day, to an average person, they didn't even know what production was. They looked at music as just someone playing an instrument or someone singing, maybe someone doing some percussion, that's about it. Now I think people understand that production is a whole other side of making music that's unbelievably important and that takes a lot of skill and craft. And so I think as a result of that, as a result of, all the terminology that really originated, in my opinion, from hip-hop music production has now spread to other genres like EDM and more. Now, a lot of times people ask me, how do you make a song? Like, what is the process for making a song? Of course, every song is different and every producer is different. Every situation is different as well. But I look at it, oversimplifying this into four main stages: the cook-up, arrangement, mixing, and mastering. Each one of those has kind of their own sub-elements, but overall, cook-up in terms of just working on the beat. Kind of the initial start, in my opinion, of making a song is the cook-up. What do I want to make today? What do I want the BPM to be? What about the key signature? What do I want to start with? Do I want to start with a drum beat and a loop, or do I want to start with maybe a melody? How do I even want to begin this track, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like the beginning stages where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just kind of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. The second phase is the arrangement phase. At this point, you're like, okay, I genuinely know the overall vibe of the track, what it's going to sound like, et cetera, et cetera. Now I just have to put everything into place and kind of create the track from start to then finish. The third phase is mixing. All mixing means is basically adjusting the levels. I'm oversimplifying a lot of this, I want to say that. But you're basically adjusting the levels and thinking like, okay, do I want the snare to be louder or softer in this one section? After the mix down is done, then you move on to the fourth stage, which is mastering, which is kind of the final touch you put on the entire track. Of course, every musician has a different process. Even for me, some songs I start just with the drum beat, other ones I start with a melody. Sometimes I have the vocals before I even begin on a track, et cetera, because each one of these parts too has its own subparts as well, like I said. When it comes to the cook-up, maybe sometimes, especially in EDM, one huge part of the song structure is actually sound design. Sound design is a whole field in itself, a whole kind of skill set, and it takes years to really perfect and get good at sound design. Now, for some artists, they might do that right in the beginning stages in terms of the cook-up stage. They might say, you know what, I'm gonna spend hours on this one kick drum sample. Or I'm going to mess around in Serum in a synthesizer and try to figure out this really weird sound. And once I'm done cooking in terms of this exact sound, then I'm going to start on the entire song. For other artists, it might be the opposite. And again, this can depend upon the song. You might work on kind of the cook-up stage, put together a beat and all this kind of stuff. Then you say, okay, now we have the main concept of the track. I know the main melody, but what sound do I want for that melody? In addition, of course, including the vocals. This may happen in the beginning, or let's say in the cook-up stage, you already have pre-written bars, and then you build a melody along with that. In other cases, it could be the exact opposite, where let's say you start with a beat, start with a melody, and then you write the bars in more of the arranging phase of the track, as opposed to the cook-up phase.